Hello everyone, welcome to Enjoy the Book of Life. We are here today to talk about Bible memorization, and specifically an app with my brother-in-law, Chase Boone. And so we've been using this app, and so first of all, just kind of to set the stage, what personal benefits have you found? Because we've been using it for a couple months, a little bit on and off, but right now we're using it. What personal benefits have you found from actively spending time memorizing?
Well, I've been using it this year, but also last year we memorized Romans 12, and no matter what I'm memorizing, it seems to always be in the front of my mind. So whenever I'm having a conversation with another believer, talking about anything, it's always right there, and then I get to say the verse, and it's like, oh wow, that the power of the scripture in the conversation. So it makes my conversations, my relationships, more meaningful.
Yeah, that ties in, I think, real well with Psalm 1, where it talks about, blessed is the man who is meditating day and night, and just kind of the way you were describing that, how it's sitting there almost at the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, it's like a little snack I get to eat all day long.
Yeah, ready to jump out whenever. I think it's good. It's, for me, one of the benefits that I find is that in taking that time to memorize, because it does take time, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit, but there are so many times where I've got 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there throughout my day, and instead of wasting those, finding time to sit down and invest it in the scripture memory has been a big help for me personally. Yeah, I think especially with scripture memorization, it's pushed a lot with little kids, right? You go to Sunday school and Awanas, and it's like, yeah, you guys need to be memorizing verses, right? And then for us adults, it seems not as much a priority.
Yeah.
And so I think it's been really encouraging. We've been working as a group here in Starkville. We've been memorizing together, and how it's kind of helped with us as a group, right?
Right. What we do when we meet is we'll each do a verse at a time. So I'll say a verse, then you say the next one, then Dom will say the next one, and then we just go around in a circle. And that way we're all engaged at the same time. It's not like we're all listening to one guy say the whole passage, yeah.
And while you're saying your verse, I'm trying to remember it ahead of you.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like how we do it, and I like the pace we're going at. Something I do, and we've been going at a one verse a day sort of pace. The way I keep up with it. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but at least for my phone, I have an Android, and the app doesn't really give me notifications. On my wife's phone, she has all the notifications.
Yeah.
So she has an iPhone, so maybe it's just an iPhone Android thing. But what I do is I have a daily planner, and I have just already written in Colossians 1:27, Colossians 1:28 for the next day, and I've already got it written in, so I already know what I'm supposed to be covering. So if I miss it, I'll just see what I'm supposed to be at, and I'll just memorize
Catch
a couple
up
of
from
them.
there. Yeah. So how does this app work? First of all, it's called
Bible Memory App.
and you can get it on iPhone and Android. But how does it work, and why do we think it works well?
Well, this is my favorite part. So, the way it works is, you pick your passages. You can actually set up groups. So, like we have the Starkville Memory Group, and you can set up passages to memorize together from inside the group. But you pick your passage, and you can pick your translation. I don't think you're limited too much on that. And then when you start to memorize the passage, it's got 3 phases to it. The first phase, you see the whole verse and you're just typing out the words. And I'll tell you how you type it out in a sec. The second phase, it cuts off every other word. So you're trying to remember half of the verse, but you're reminded of the other half as you go. Then the third phase is complete free recall. And that's just the initial memorization of it. So the way you actually type it in is you type the very first letter, and that's it, of the word. So, like Colossians 1:1. Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ, by the will of God, and Timothy, our brother. It would be P,
A.
P-A-A, an apostle, O, J-C, B, W-O-G, that.
Yeah.
So you'd be typing it out like that. And that makes it actually easy to, if you're having a difficulty remembering a verse, you can just remember the combination on the keyboard.
Right.
So it helps you, like when you have like a couple W's or A's or S's in a combination, or like that verse in Colossians where it's like, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers. I always remember T, D, P, P.
Right.
So
yeah. And what I like is because sometimes people will say, to memorize, I write out the whole verse. Well, it's so much slower when you're writing than when you're saying it. But when I'm saying Paul, an apostle of Jesus Christ by the will of God, right? It's about the same pace as if I'm quoting it.
That's a good point.
So there's not actually much of a disconnect from me quoting it to me going through the app.
And there's 3 ideas that the app is using to help you retrieve the information, but also retain it. For the retrieval, it's using free recall. So the initial memorization, you go through those 3 phases, but then the rest of the time when you review it, it's always going to be free recall. You could switch back, but you're going to lose points. There are points in this whole thing, by the way.
So, and that does motivate some people.
Yeah,
getting points and getting ahead, and
yeah.
So it has that kind of game aspect to it as well.
Yeah, I don't focus too much on the points.
Yeah.
I try not to. But
that's just because I'm winning.
Yeah. So.
I'm not.
So free recall is the retrieval idea. For retention, there's 2 ideas, overlearning and spacing. Overlearning is just a fancy way of saying repetition. So the way you repeat and overlearn is through spacing. It's a combination of the ideas. So spacing, if you've ever used Duolingo or some of these language apps, they're doing it behind the scenes. They don't tell you what they're doing. But this app is more overt. It tells you. So the first time you memorize it, that's day 1. Then you'll memorize it again the next day. And then the next time you memorize, number 3, is 2 days later. So now you're on day 4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's an increasing level, or increasing space, that's why it's called spacing, increasing space in between the moments where you review the knowledge, the information. And that way it's kind of like its own challenge for your memory. So you're constantly reviewing, you're using repetition, but then it's also another level of challenge to review something that you just memorized a week ago, because you'll go from 3 days to 4 days, 5, 6, then a week, then every 2 weeks, then every 3 weeks, then every 4 weeks, then every 2 months.
So it's slowly moving it from that short-term memory into a longer-term memory, or incrementally. Yeah.
Yes. And I can still remember parts of Romans 12, even though I haven't reviewed it for 6 months. I think it's just because of the spacing.
So one of the things that you talked about earlier was that in Colossians 1, we're actively memorizing that, and there you've seen a benefit to that in your daily encounters and what's on your mind. But then I think one of the reasons some people might be hesitant to memorizing is they're like, well, in a year will I still remember that? Like a year from now, will you still remember Colossians 1? Will you still be able to quote the whole thing? Just like last year, we memorized Romans 12. Could we sit down and actually quote the whole thing? But what benefit would you say you have now from having spent time memorizing Romans 12?
Well, maybe the benefit isn't necessarily just for you. I like what Jabe says, that in order to keep something, you have to give it away. We're talking about Bible memory, and that's one way that I have helped myself memorize Romans 12 and Colossians 1, and other passages in Romans, actually. But giving it away to people being able to give it away to other people has helped me remember it, but has also benefited other people. So it's a benefit to me in my walk with the Lord, in my understanding of His Word, but it's also because then I can chew on it. I can chew on it all day. I can go on a walk and be thinking about what I've been memorizing, and how it connects with things I've already memorized or other scriptures that I've been thinking about. It allows me to connect more pieces. So if I can remember all the pieces, I can connect more. So that's how it's a benefit to me, but it can also be a way for me to enrich other people.
Right, yeah, and it goes back to Psalm 1. Here's this guy, he meditates, and he's a fruitful tree, right? There's fruit produced for others to enjoy. That all kind of came back from that. I really enjoy that, after spending that much time in a passage. Yeah, I probably can't start from Romans 12:1 and take it all the way to the end, but I still do remember the flow of thought. I remember a lot of the key components. It's a lot faster to my mind and going back through it. It is a commitment, right? You talked about your planner.
Yeah.
How much time would you say you spend a day memorizing?
If I'm on task and I'm doing the one a day, it takes 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I put it in. I've got my little to-do app, and it's a reoccurring. I set it to daily reminder, so it pops up every day. Every now and again, and it's, I'm going to sleep. No, I didn't do it today, but tomorrow there's that little reminder. It's going to be right there. I'd say it takes me at least 5, sometimes up to 10, especially if I'm reviewing, 5 to 10 minutes. But again, this goes back to that, I've got those 5-10 minutes. It's not like you need to set out a block of your time. This is, like you said, you're going on a walk. Let me review a little bit and using that time wisely.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot to factor in the time to review your other verses that you've probably... you're at a point in your review cycle that you need to review other verses. And the app will, when you're reviewing a verse by verse, like a single verse, it'll make you type in, the first letter of the book that you're memorizing and the chapter and verse. But you can also select combine all verses so that you memorize the whole passage that you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an easy way to type it in a flowy way so that you're not always typing in the reference.
Right.
So when I do it in that method, it takes less time and I can review a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah.
Well, so again, with this app, what tips and suggestions would you have? We both kind of talked about the daily reminder. I think we both suggest find a partner. I think that's a big benefit there. Any other tips or suggestions you'd have when it comes to this app?
I could talk about a few of the features. They're a little more on the side. Like we don't use them. I don't use them very much. But you can. It has a flashcard feature, so you can look at the verses with flashcards. You can also draw pictures of the passage or of the verse. So for every verse, when you review it, it'll show this picture, and whatever you draw to help yourself remember what it is will appear up front, and then when you start typing, it will kind of go in the background.
Mm.
So Dom likes to use that. He's more artistic and
Yeah.
pictorial. So
Yeah. Helps with the recall, that visual memory. Yeah.
the points, if you want to be more competitive with your brethren, brotherly love in
Yeah,
honor
that's it.
in honor giving preference to one another. That was Romans 12:10.
That's it. Now, is there a cost for this app?
It is free. Although I would recommend paying the $10. It's not a subscription, it's a one-time fee. $10, and you get, instead of, I think, the free version, you get 5 passages and maybe 100 verses, I think. If you pay for it, you get unlimited. So it just removes all the barriers and all the restrictions.
Right. The free one, like if you memorize one and you delete that, you can get a new one. But then you've lost that one. Yeah. So, well, good. I think scripture memory, it's been something that I've been really enjoying, that we've been doing as a group. I think it's something that is on the back burner, way off in the distance. It's a cute thing to do with kids, and so I think it's good to bring it back kind of out into the forefront. Yeah.
I forgot one more thing. If you're going to do it with a group, which is very much recommended, stick to the same passage.
Yeah.
Last year when we did Romans 12, I actually went through and did 13 and 14. Me and Dom did 13 and 14. But other people in the group, they went and did other things. And so it actually diminished our motivation. So we kind of quit only maybe 4 or 5 months in, maybe less. So I recommend, if you want to go for the goal, everyone should agree on what passage you're going to do. Like we've agreed, in our little group, we've agreed to do all of Colossians. So we're going to go through all of Colossians.
Yeah.
And that's really motivating. I don't have to worry about what I'm going to memorize next. When we finish Colossians 1, I'm just going to go through Colossians 2.
Now, along with that, we don't really push to stay in the same place 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you might be a few verses ahead of me, someone else's might be a few verses behind, but we're all moving forward with Colossians together. We're encouraging each other. Oh yeah, I haven't gotten to that section, I'm just starting that section. So we're in different sections, but we're all kind of moving in the same, at least on the same path.
Yeah. Like I just memorized Colossians 2:1 today. I can't say it right now, so don't ask. It's not that, I don't know it that good, but I did Colossians 2:1, and I think you guys are just at the end.
Yep.
So everyone's kind of around the same.
Right. We're close.
That method that we have, where we go around one at a time, everyone does the next verse, is really helpful, because as soon as you're done, you don't know anymore. You can just do the 2.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Good. And again, I think bringing this out to the forefront, hopefully some other folks will download the app and get some groups and give it a go.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Good.
I hope people are blessed by it.